That's how I feel like that should start off, y'all. Welcome back to Unpopular Review Entertainment. And we are talking the 80s, the best of the 80s. And we've seen all the rest. And we're going to continue to see the best. And it's coming in right now. It's going to be Fast Times at Ridgemont High. A classic movie for you old heads out there and you younger people out there. Just don't be so cringe when you watch a movie so long ago. So sit back, relax. The crew is here. We're going to talk fast cars, fast money, and fast Karens. People, we are here, we are live, and I am your host this evening, Mike Knoxxx, and I am joined by the crew in its full effect. We got the executive consultant down there probably texting somebody. We got the next doctor, and we got the man with the world behind him because he is the best in the world, Mr. Vic Damone. What's going on, gentlemen? How y'all doing tonight? I can't hear nobody. That's my fault. Did I meet y'all so muted? There you go.
I'm doing well. I already
There we go. I am excellent. I am ready to get into this. I hadn't seen this movie before.
Good.
So.
Good. Oh, I knew, Vic, you told me you hadn't seen it, and so I'm pretty happy with that and where that went. But listen, guys, Stacy Hamilton is a pretty girl, a little young, 15 even, teenager, not even in high school right now, giving advice for people to say, go over there and knocks that man off. They're like, what's wrong with you, Linda? She's not even in high school yet, right? And she says, well, the guy says, well, how old are you? She says, I'm 19. She goes, how old are you? She goes, I'm 26. And next thing you know, bada bing, bada boom, they're in the dugout. See you soon. Then he was not the only person doing this stuff back in the day. This was the way back then. Go back in the day, that's what it was. Girls, that man Josh Giddey's out here getting got because the girl in the club at 15 years old. Ain't that man's fault that girl in the club at 15 years old. That's the club's fault and the bouncer's fault. So that girl lied to this man. And that's what this movie was about. 80s, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I mean, this movie to me had every single thing that embodied the 80s to me. Okay, the star cast in itself is just remarkable. The cast, I mean, you can speak on it all the time. You got Sean Penn in this movie. Nicolas Cage is in this movie. Okay, Judge Reinhold's in this movie. I mean, the list can go on and on. What's my guy from My Favorite Martian that played the teacher? What's his real name? Ray Watson's in this movie. This movie goes on and on and on. But I'm going to be quiet right now and pass the baton to the executive consultant. Right now, your thoughts on Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
You know, I'm so glad you're playing these clips because I saw this movie too. And put another one up. I saw this movie 2 days ago, and I didn't get a chance to post on Instagram how I was watching this movie. And the reason is because I feel like we haven't done a show in a while. I feel like the last show we did was on Halloween. You know, we've had a few shows since then. But the reason I remember Halloween is because how scary this movie was. It was really terrifying. That Mike actually picked it for us to watch, and then two, that I actually had to sit on my couch and watch this. It's amazing. I think this segment is supposed to be the best of, worst of. Let's talk about the best of. Here's the best stuff. No, I want to start with the worst stuff. Okay, I want to start with the worst stuff. They enter, you meet all the characters. Mm-hmm. That was the worst stuff. The best stuff was the credits, and I didn't even finish because I was just so happy this movie was over. This movie was straight garbage, right? Mm-hmm. Straight garbage. I tried to watch it with open mind because a good friend of mine was like, hey, I want you to watch this movie. And I want you to watch it from a mentality back in the 80s, not with 2023 eyes.
I think I did say that.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to try to go ahead and do it. I said, for you.
I know it's impossible for you to do that.
I'm going to try to do it. Keyword try. Because then when I watched it, I was like, I don't even think I could have watched this like this in the 80s, man. Oh, gosh. You know what I'm saying?
I forgot. We did find out from last time you don't like the movies where people are masturbating. You don't masturbate. I forgot. You don't masturbate.
Oh, God, the masturbation. It's hard for me to watch this movie. This movie made me want to throw up and regurgitate, and I couldn't do it because I didn't have anything in my stomach. So I went to go eat, hoping that will make me feel better. I can't tell you some favorite scenes. I really can't because I did not like any part of this movie. The teacher sometimes was funny to me, so maybe that was my favorite scene. And I think there was one time he actually did have me chuckle, ha 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 ha. When does this movie end? I think that's how the laughs went. But it wasn't it. Look at this shit. Look at this scene. This scene is stupid. That might have been my funniest scene. There you go. Them in the car. And he was like, he's going to kill us. He's going to shit and then he's going to kill us or something like that. So I guess it wasn't all bad. It was just 98% bad. Mikey, you picked this movie.
Yes, I did.
And I'm going to tell y'all this, and I'm going to pass the baton over. When we picked the 80s movies, everybody picked the 80s movies. And then somebody said E.T. And I said, oh, okay. And then I had to pick the schedule.
Are you serious? Shut up.
I had to pick the schedule. I said,
no.
Thankfully, E.T. coincides with when I have to go on a cruise, so I don't have to watch that bullshit again.
That's whack.
As a good friend of mine, another good friend of mine who I won't mention, right? Another good friend of mine always says, I have regrets. I have regrets that this movie was not the one in E.T.'s place. Down to you, Vic.
That's hilarious. Okay. You know, this movie brought me back to my 20s. And it made me realize something. And it kind of like reiterated something. Like, you know, white women will throw you some pussy if they like you.
Any woman would.
You know what I mean? No, but what I'm trying to say is that there's no it's not transactional. There's no like put things in place. You know what I mean? It's just because they like, if that makes sense. Like other people, like, you know, it's kind of like
what you're getting to with that reference is what I'm trying to have you.
Like, no, what I'm trying to say is just that, like, all right, like for example, like the guy basically, the guy picked her up and then they went straight to it.
Right to the dugout.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, you know, there was no date, there was no, you know what I mean? There was no like, you know, because you know, it's because they like you know what I mean? And mind you, and then she did that several times. And she and the girl, you know, once she got comfortable, she was just throwing it everywhere, like to every guy that she liked. You know, and then in the end,
she only slept with two guys. I mean, she tried to make it three.
The third guy. Then the funny thing is
that
then
she slept with two and tried to make it three. He got up and walked out.
And then she ran to the safety net. I found that to be just precious. You know,
that is what always happens, right? Like
you know, but it's funny because this is this whole thing feels like this was the 70s. You know, I feel like that's the story that they were telling here. You know, with the stoners and the vans and the that whole manipulation right there, that was crazy. But that was kind of brilliant. I'm not gonna lie. That whole thing was kind of brilliant, and the football team won. But that was you know. But I honestly, like, I feel like it's like they're making fun of reality. You know, like a Marlon Wayans movie, like one of those things where they're just making fun of everything. The teacher was just brilliant, though. I'm not gonna lie. Like his sarcasm and everything with the stoner, that was pretty funny. The fact that he showed up at the stoner's house and then during the dance and was just and decided to ruin his evening. I don't think a teacher could get away with something like that now. Like, oh, really? You want to come and take my time? Okay, let's do it. And I'm not gonna lie.
I love his response though. Remember, he was like, "Isn't it kind of our time?"
Yeah. No, you know, it's funny because like one of the smartest people in this movie was the stoner, which is hilarious. And in the end, he ends up saving Brooke Shields, and something happens and whatever. Because apparently Brooke Shields was the hottest thing in 1982.
Oh, everybody wanted her. That's why Michael had her.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
So she had them Ashanti bangs before Ashanti to me. Did Brooke Shields. And that next Doctor, your thoughts of this movie?
Wow. So
The energy is complete. Did I just ruin the 80s for you guys?
no, it's just that I didn't know anything about this movie going into it. So, it was just like, oh, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that's what we're going to watch. Okay.
It really is Fast Times because
I put it on, and I'm like, okay, it's like a teenager, coming of age kind of movie. All right, feeling the vibes, Oh, hey, I'm 19, and then you really find out she's 15. I'm like, whoa! Right off the bat, I'm like, okay, this is where we're going. It was great music. I will say it was great music throughout. I really like the soundtrack of this. I do
You
dig
got the
music.
beat, you got the beat.
I do dig me some 80s music, so I like that. Showcasing the arcades. I remember going to the arcades back then. And like you say, it's got all your favorite white people in it.
Mm-hmm.
A shout out to the young Nick Cage. No lines, but his face was in there. That was pretty cool. I learned that a wuss is a combination of a wimp and a pussy. I didn't know that. I was just like, oh, it's a wuss. I didn't know that's what that word was a combination of. That was pretty nice. So, it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff.
I'm actually curious if you could say that now. Is that a thing? Can we say wuss?
I mean,
wuss?
Sure.
Can we say wuss?
I still say wuss sometimes, depending on what time. But I'm also part of the rest
some
of the community.
people don't even know what it means, though. You might say like, what?
I mean, that might be the advantage.
And then it loses its power. This scene right here, I was like, are you serious?
That was just beautiful.
Like,
and here, that's another
like
thing.
That, in the lunchroom, I probably would have gone just as wild as those kids did. I mean, this movie was just out there, and I was not prepared for how out there it was going to be. Right from the dugout, just like, oh, I was like, oh, the dugout. I was thinking, or I think they were like the Ridge Point or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
At first I didn't realize, they were talking about going to the dugout. I thought it was like, you go out to the ridge, you overlook the city, you have a nice romantic place. It was a dugout. There was nothing else to do.
I mean, I've gotten plenty of, action in a dugout. Just saying. In the 80s, it was like one of the safest places to go. I'm being honest. You know what I mean? Like, you could go at a baseball field. You got a bench. It's enclosed.
And it was a little lower, so no one's really seeing you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does seem like but it was just like, wow, okay, this is the thing to do. And yeah, after she gave it up that first time,
it was on.
It was on. It was on. She was the aggressor at that point.
Isn't that what DeMarco said to him? He said, hey man, she's aggressive.
He's like, yeah, and then when she was pregnant,
you don't want that.
He was like, "You the one that wanted it more than me."
Yeah.
Hold up, but
like,
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I was like,
really? Wait a minute now.
It always takes two to tango.
So now,
but
wait a
she
second.
definitely was like, "Oh, I'm throwing it to you. Come, pick it up." So,
but here's the thing: isn't that normal? I'm sure all of us have experienced that.
Back then, it was abnormal.
No, even from that. See, I was making that point because it's been like that ever since.
Yes, I think that was the boom of women starting to get their own power of sexuality was the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
No, but what I'm saying is, who's usually the one that's doing the chasing?
The man, right?
Black women don't be chasing, man. Black women don't chase. White women be chasing. These girls be chasing, bro.
I hate to say it because he's in prison.
Black women don't chase.
He's in prison. And the other one's being rich as a billionaire with Beyonce, but they had a song called "The Power of the PU." That's why. It's why we all get haircuts and try to dress fly. Except for Chris,
right.
He ain't so fashion sense. That's
right.
okay. He still gets girls.
All of us done had at least one white girl that just would not stop.
So on that note,
everybody's right.
Listen, you said, can they do this today? Absolutely, girls are still getting away with that. They're doing it on TikTok. They're all in kind of movies. There would be no American Pies. This movie was at $4.5 million to make. and was the #1 comedy in 1982, being #1, grossing $27 million.
Thanks.
This was actually in the theater.
Now,
Yes.
This is American Pie with Bandcamp, like
With
before.
Bandcamp included in it. But we're going to take a break, guys. We're going to come back. Worst of, best of. If you got any quotables, whatever it is you got to do, we're going to get them in. We'll be right back here on Unpopular Review Entertainment. And we have other shows coming up, guys. Next week, we begin to give you a lot of new shows here. Popular Review, Wrestling, Entertainment, it's all here. Come check us out, because next week, we do have our 90s month theme. I don't know what the first movie is right now. Executive consultant, we don't have it. But we got our 90s month kicking off. But we'll be right back. All right.
And mind you, here's the thing. Here's the other thing. But you know what I mean? Nobody's bomb. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean? So like,
You know what I mean? It's not
you know what I mean? So clear. You know what I mean?
the other
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And you know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? Thumbs up.
So once upon a time when I was a young man, right? So you couldn't fast forward nothing. You had to just deal with
I
what
remember
was
those
on.
things.
You remember. So I had to sit. Oh, man. Okay, boom. Oh, man, Powerpuff Girls are on. I can't wait to watch that. But you had to sit through a freaking hour of Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo to get to Powerpuff Girls. So I had to suffer. And I had to watch these idiots. These guys who knew that these guys were humans in costumes. I had to see these guys running their stupid attire, especially Fred, because what was that thing around his neck? What was that, a scarf?
It's called an ascot.
Terrible fashion. Hated them all, and I had to deal with this. And then they had a spinoff just to make me even angrier. So when you guys look at me and you go,
You.
and everyone, a few, oh my God, Scooby-Doo meets Hollywood. Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. There was a dog called Scooby-Dum. Why was there a Scooby-Dum? There was just so many of these spin-offs, and they kept
I
going.
liked one or
and
two versions of it, but that's about it.
they kept going. They kept going. They made a movie, and then I knew, what was this band called? I forget what they're called. Simple Plan. And then they were singing. I said, this thing is still going. Oh my God! And they're still going right now. There's a Velma show, and the
Yeah, no, that
Shaggy
I'm not
Black.
into. So.
Yeah. So when people ask me, why are you so angry? It's just not because I was born angry. That might be a part of it, because I didn't ask to be here. But then there's all these spin-offs of Scooby-Doo. There's like a universe of Scooby-Doo. Why are we doing this?
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where
And you can find all those shows right here on Unpopular Review Entertainment, Unpopular Review Wrestling Entertainment. Next week, if you guys are a big fan of the Power series, Raising Kanan comes out at midnight. And the Millie Blaze show, the husband and wife review show, is back starting this Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Check out Kanan, come talk about it with us, as well as wrestling here on Unpopular Review. But we are back talking about 1982's #1 comedy of the year, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I'm going to go with you next, Doctor, because I don't even want to go to a good consultant right now. Best and worst of next, Doctor, if you have a quotable.
First I got to say that I do agree with that Scooby-Doo thing. I really hated that show. Only thing good about Scooby-Doo was the theme song for a pup named Scooby-Doo. I didn't even like the show. I just liked the song. Anyway.
Well, first of all, Lucius Lyons wears an ascot, so that's fashion. Just saying. Lucius Lyons, baby. To the Empire!
Speaking of fashion, the fashion in this show, this movie rather, definitely 80s. It was dated, and a little like you talked about, try not to have the cringe in your opening there. There was definitely some cringe in this movie. I will say that I did like the teacher going to the house. He was like, "Listen, you wasted 8 hours of my time. I'm reclaiming my time." I did like that. I thought that was pretty funny. Getting caught masturbating in the bathroom. It's like, does anybody knock? One of the things at the very end, when the brother, shout out, he was brother of the year. he needs an award. He was brother of the year. He was 10 toes down for his sister.
Who was he? Because he went after DeMarco, I believe.
Oh yeah. DeMarco would have got right. He would have wound up in the trunk with those flowers.
Yeah.
But I think at the end when I was getting a little scared at the end when he was in the Martin, the guy had the gun on him. I was like, man, is the best character here about to die? But then, it turned around. So I thought that was pretty good. But I mean, I don't really have any quotables for it, but all in all, I do think that this was an enjoyable movie. I definitely had to go to my 80s mentality because I was like, this, a 15-year-old, I was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh boy, there's some creep stuff here. But thinking about it in the 80s, especially after she became more aggressive herself, I was okay. She's doing her thing. I mean, she's telling people that she's older than she is. We weren't carding people back then. You just had to roll with it. But it was a pretty good movie. It catches you off guard if you don't know what you're walking into. But it's pretty good.
Vic, any best and worst or quotables from this movie?
Okay, I got a quote. Because, look, this movie, a lot of it felt like I was watching Hitch. And to be honest with you, some of the advice I think was good advice. Because he was giving the guy he was basically
giving them the advice. Yeah,
he was telling them just not to be soft because he was basically too much in his head and too scared. And like one thing that he said, don't just walk in. You move across the room, and you don't talk to her. You use your face. You use your body. You use everything. That's what I do. I think that's really good advice. I think that
is that how you got Mrs. Vic?
Huh?
Is that how you got Mrs. Vic?
Kind of, I mean, but what I'm saying is just that you shouldn't be scared to have a conversation to you know what I mean? And that's basically what's going on here. But the thing is that the girls also, like, they're not scared to make a move. And I thought that was something newer than what it was. I didn't realize that's been going on since the Love Generation, because this movie's got the 70s all over it. This is like these girls are straight Marilyn Monroe.
It was probably wrote in the 70s and then made in 81 and came out in 82. That's how movies typically go, right? So it never had a 70s undertone for sure.
These girls are putting on their Cleopatra, their Marilyn Monroe, their Elizabeth Taylor, like they're going hard. They don't care, especially the girl with the dark hair. Like, she is like the biggest slut of all. And she's great.
Linda's pool scene is arguably one of the most infamous scenes in the 80s. Was her coming out of that pool. This was everywhere, still everywhere. People still imitate it. Still, it's duplicated to this day of this scene. So she was supposed to be a big star. Didn't turn out to be that way, but
she should have been, because wow, she looked good too.
I mean, it definitely got my attention.
When she showed them boobies, it was on. Executive consultant, worst and best and worst. Or if you have a quotable, please, before we go into final thoughts.
Did anybody say bye in this movie? Because that would be my quotable.
Jackass. You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad you said you're welcome. Thank you so much for subjecting me to watch this hour and 29-minute movie.
Hour and 30 minutes of pure...
No, it was hour and 29. I couldn't take the 5
I'm surprised he didn't like Mr. Hand.
Who the freak is Mr. Hand?
The teacher.
The teacher.
I found him to be somewhat entertaining at times, but at the same time, no. It was too much to get to. I think I finally figured out what my favorite scene in the movie. No, jokey joke.
Like, that was hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. that shit right there was.
I don't even know who that is. So,
Spicoli, Sean Penn.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Sean Penn is.
I don't know how else to explain it.
I don't know how you are a leader of an entertainment program, but we talk about movies and TV shows and not know who Sean Penn is. He won an Oscar, for heaven's sakes. He was married to Madonna. That's fine. It doesn't work that way. It's no click here. I'm not a woman.
I'm sorry. I was hoping it worked because I explained already, and you try to explain how I'm not explaining. I don't understand. I don't know who he is. I don't care. Here's what I care about.
One, two.
That's fine. So here's what I care about, right? There was a scene where she got the little slut girl. What's her name? She got pregnant. She had the abortion, and dude was like trying. To his credit, he tried, but he punked out because he couldn't just say, "Hey, you know what? I don't have it. Yeah, sorry." You know, even though it was only like 3 seconds. You know,
How long you normally last for him? It's just like 20 minutes. It's like, oh,
well, they all were lying. So I like the fact that when she talked to her friend about it, she's like, he's a prick, and she wrote it on his car, she wrote it on his locker. I appreciated that. I appreciate he was a man he was a man, went up to his friend later, even though he should have did it at the beginning and said, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You could tell that he felt guilty about it. Actually, when it was happening, he somewhat felt guilty about it, but he still went through. And you know what? I'm going to say this. This is the executive consultant's public announcement. That I want
the end of beginning, the numero unos or chances of winning. I do it again. Follow no other, I'm setting these trends, consulting.
Now, you may not have been consulting me, but I'm going to give you the consultation of a lifetime. If you are a good friend, you are not going to go after the woman that your friend is talking to. That is wrong. That is messed up. You should not do it.
Right. But what happens if she throw you the pussy?
you still don't. You tell your friend.
You're not supposed to do it. And then you make sure.
Right, so wait, do you snitch on her?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I've been in that situation way too many times. Because I've always been that guy. But my quote was from this movie, and it's a great comedy movie.
I wasn't done.
Oh, okay, shit. My bad.
Don't do it. Say no to that. And then if you do it, you have to make sure that you are man enough to say something to your friend. And that's what he did. I respect him for that, even though he was a sleaze throughout this entire daggone movie. I did not like it, but I did like the fact that when she told her homegirl was like, he's a prick, and she took it personally. She took care of him personally. I do appreciate that kind of loyalty, and I just want to mention that. So I did like that part. Might sway my opinion.
I think the character Styles from Teen Wolf was modeled after him from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The scalping thing, the whole slick hair, I think he was really modeled after him. Again, I'm 82. I'm watching this movie. I'm 7 years old in 82, right? So when I started actually watching this movie, it was probably about 85 when it would come on TBS, along with like Valley Girl and all those kind of movies that would come on back then, which Nicolas Cage stars in a movie called Valley Girl, okay? Which one of his first movies, gagging with a spoon. Oh my God, that kind of talk was the name of the movie. But in the 80s and the 90s, unfortunately, which is not condoning this, High Five is a very popular R&B group, and Just Can't Handle It. What am I going to do? She was 10 times older than years older than him. No one speaks about in the movie Juice how the chick from En Vogue is with the high school kid, which is Omar Epps' character, and she had a whole husband and everything else. The stuff like that just been going on for years, and maybe in today's world we have to look at it and be more attention. It is wrong. 100% wrong, 100% wrong, but I always hate to say this. We didn't know no better, and those were the times. Right now we know better, we move on. But this movie to me was very good, very interesting. I love that my guy came in the store and he was like, it says 100% guarantee, you moron. He said, mister, if you don't shut up right now, I'm going to kick your 100% ass. Listen, I'm sorry, this movie. Thanks, Arnold. You know, Arnold gets him fired into the bathroom. He gets his friend the job like he was the man. Brad was the guy at school. He was in the senior. He lost his girl. It was great. Like I said, he did ride for his sister. And I think as guys in general, when you're walking up to your friend in a locker room and you're bad-mouthing him, I'm not going to apologize to you because at that point, remember, they're high school kids. It's embarrassing to have your boy come up to you while you got your towel on. Everybody in the locker room like, oh, you're a dirtbag. Everybody says you're a loudmouth. Right? What we're supposed to do is defend himself. That's what we do. It's a defense mechanism. So he came back like a man later, and he apologized about it. But Stacy, unfortunately, bad friends, right? That was the 80s. Remember, and then she learns in the movie, I don't want just sex. I want romance. I want to be loved. And that's just what women, men, people, humans go through. You go through what the peer pressure of the world gives you, whether it's sex, drugs, rock and roll, hip hop, whatever the case may be, trends, clothing, you fall into it until you learn how to come out of it yourself, right? Whether you've been in trouble with the law, so I ain't gonna fault her. That was the times. We move on. Right here, right now, I'm gonna start with you. Next, doctor down there. Thumbs up, thumbs down for Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Woo! Last time, man. Like I said, this one caught me off guard. But as an '80s movie, I will give it a thumbs up.
Holy,
because it was entertaining. You know, looking at it as an '80s movie, I could see the entertainment value. You know, definitely would not green light something like this today.
Oh wow!
But '80s, definitely.
Vic Damone Jr. Thumbs ups, thumbs down on this classic '82 film.
I think if everybody saw this movie, a lot of people wouldn't be as judgmental as they are now. Because, listen, a lot of stuff that went on then goes on now and has been going on for a long time. Like, it's just that people like to live in kitty litter. So, yeah. This is
Did we make that a quotable?
You know what I mean? They like that, you know. Dog shit all over the place, cats hide their shit. So yeah, man, this thing was very interesting. I'm glad I saw it. And you know, like Chris said for me before, I have regrets. I regret not seeing this before because I really would have recommended this to a lot of people. You know, this thing is it's not bad. Like it's a good showcase of what life was like in the 70s, in my opinion. I mean, I know it's 1982, but I think that this movie really resonated with a lot of people back then. Because mind you, I've heard this title many times before. I just never got to sit down and actually watch the movie. And here's the truth: like 40 years later, a lot of these people, you know, you look at them now, like, hey, you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, good shit.
Here he comes, y'all. The executive consultant. He has a whole sign that lights up, but it's never lit up.
There's the ring cloud.
Okay, we can't hear you muted. Your final or
it just
thumbs
glows
up,
and then
down.
you can't read what it says. But let's go ahead and talk about it. This is the movie known as The Batman.
Here we go.
This is arguably one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and I wanted to only do this for a year, but I feel like it's going to happen until the next Batman movie comes out.
Wow.
This is how I judge movies now on this show. I judge them. I judge them based on if this movie is as good as The Batman, which is a very, very easy curve to do. I don't know what cat piss or kitty litter or whatever the hell Vic was saying meant, but I can tell you what was cat piss. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was cat piss. Fast Time, I'm going to be like, James, get that off the screen. Get off the screen. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was dog piss. And it was dog shit. However, the judge is it better than The Batman? The fuck it was not. And it gets a thumbs down from me.
Thumbs up for me. It's an 80s movie made in the 80s for people who are 80s kids, 80s teenagers, or rather 80s teenagers and 80s adults. This movie was a perfect rendition of the 80s. It had no races in it. It played on a stereotype of having, I thought he just flew in to play his games. They knew he was the big black guy in the area. I thought it was a perfect blend of the 80s. And it's one of the few 80s comedies that was not made or directed by one John Hughes that became successful in that time as he had the 80s on lockdown. So for me, clearly a thumbs up. For me, this movie, for what it's worth, when I saw this scene, or not this scene, but them go to the dugout, it opened up a spot for people who couldn't take a girl home in the 80s when you're, a teenager. And knock a girl off. She would let you take it to the dugout, put her on the grass in the baseball field. It was a place
They
to
really
go.
had it easy, man.
So for me, thumbs up easily. This movie is one of the best 80s movies for me. When we had to pick the 80s movies, I could have picked a whole lot of them. We had two that were my favorite movies of all time, and Weird Science, for that matter. My wife actually said, pick a movie from the year I was born. So I went to 82, and to me, this is the best movie from 1982, along with E.T. So listen, guys, there it is. Let us know what you think. Comment below, like, follow, subscribe, and share. Unpopular Review Entertainment. We'll be back next week for our 90s show. We kicked off the 80s. We're going into the 90s. I think I see a trend coming, y'all. We see y'all next time, y'all. For everybody here in the crew, we are out. Peace.
Universal Pictures presents everything you always wanted to do in high school with everyone you always wanted to do it with. They're the students of Ridgemont High. Brad Hamilton, the fast food king. Charles Jefferson, a man with a mission. Linda Barrett, not exactly the girl next door. See